And today finds me at a definitely a lesser known nature preserve in Russell County, Virginia, which is in the southwest corner of the state, not too far from where Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia meet. And this is called the Big Cedar Creek. This is a major branch of the Clinch River. And this entire area is known for unique species of animals and plants, some of which live in the water, some different shelled animals, as well as many unique species of plants that hug these limestone cliffs. I believe we have some northern white cedar here, but I can't get across the creek right now to take a look at it, but this would be a good place for it to grow, and I'll see if we can get a little closer to some of the other examples of that plant. That would be well out of its natural range, but it can be found in localities around here, I'm sure, because it's a lime-loving plant, and that's what it's growing out of. Beautiful clear water here. They got a huge suspension bridge to get to the other side. There's a trail network here with 5 or 6 miles of loops, several small waterfalls and natural overlooks, and we can get right down to the banks of the Clinch River, which is a much larger river than this Cedar Creek. Let's take a look around. I got 3 or 4 hours to see what's here. And this is the Pinnacle Nature Preserve in Russell County, Virginia. I'll just take a quick look at the map here. I got a little mussel shell there by the parking lot with the P, and several different loop trails. Probably won't do them all today, but we'll give this place a nice looking over for a few hours. Well, on a day this clear and water this clear, every turn you come to has beautiful opportunities for videos. And this is just an example of what this streamside trail is like. It'd be a great place to come fishing, or in the warmer months waiting around and looking for stuff. What I found here is an old concrete ford. This land has been in public ownership, but not that many years, 35 or 40 years. This was probably access to somebody's farm, or maybe to get down to the Clinch River with their canoes. Many of these farms and properties didn't have fixed bridges across these streams. You had to drive across them at low water, and when the water was high, you had to park on one side and take usually a cable bridge to the other side. That's still common in this area. This water here is about 6 inches deep flowing across this ford, so you need a high clearance vehicle if this were still in use. But there's an old expression in the Appalachian Mountains that you would be somewhere, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And if the creek does rise, then you have to wait for it to come back down. And this would be an example of that right here. This is on the Big Cedar Creek in Russell County, Virginia. And just gorgeous scenery in this Pinnacle's Nature Preserve. Now I have made my way down the Big Cedar Creek about a mile from the parking lot. And I've come to the smaller set of falls on this trail. It's a little off the beaten path on a little side trail. It doesn't drop a lot, maybe 5 or 6 feet, but it's extremely scenic with this aquamarine colored water and the white foam from the falling water and the beautiful limestone ledges here. Just a really pretty place to hang out, and a very easy walk at this point. There are some larger, small mountains on this preserve that I haven't gone up yet. This is a really neat falls. And Big Cedar Creek is living up to its name because we've got lots of big cedars along it. And many of them are the northern white cedar, which is not common in this part of the United States. It is much more common to our north in Canada and Ontario, northern Michigan, upstate New York, but it has found itself a suitable habitat here on these limestone bluffs. If you look across the stream there's this tree that is shining quite a bit in this late winter sun. And that is a northern white cedar. If that were a red cedar, the foliage would not reflect the light because it is not platy like the northern white cedar. I can stop for just a minute and show you a northern white cedar that's growing right here. And here's a northern white cedar growing right along the banks of this Big Cedar Creek. Again, the foliage on this tree forms plates, and it's not bristly like the eastern red cedar. And they are both growing here, but I got a feeling they named this creek for the northern white cedars, which are pretty common north of here, but have found a great habitat here. So here's our falls. The falls downstream from here is called Big Falls. This one doesn't have a name that I'm aware of. I'll call it Little Falls. But this is all right near the main trail, and you can hear this as you're hiking along. And what a beautiful place to spend the morning. The Pinnacles Nature Preserve in Russell County, Virginia. And just downstream from what I called Little Falls is what's called Big Falls on Big Cedar Creek. And you can hear it. This is the trail you come from. It's an old road. Kind of got a little bit of a hill here, but nothing too steep. And you're well above the creek at this point. So let's take a look at Big Falls on Big Cedar Creek from above here. It's not a huge waterfall. It drops about 10 feet, but it's certainly interesting the way it tumbles over these limestone ledges. And again, all kinds of big northern white cedars along here. So very common in this particular preserve, and neat to look at. I'll zoom in just a little bit here. And we'll be walking down the hill a little further to see the rest of the view of Big Falls. And as we make our way down the hill towards the Big Falls on Big Cedar Creek, this is our view. And boy, it makes up for in just beauty for what it lacks in height. It's only a 10-foot fall, but it's just extremely graceful, and this aquamarine water just makes for great contrast and great scenery here. And this is a park you can hike in a couple hours if you just want to see the streamside views. It's not far back here, and you don't have to go far to find some really neat stuff. Let's zoom in just a little bit here. See, I'll even walk a little closer here. Just the lighting today is making for incredible backlighting. You know, I do a lot of photography work as well, and the videos and the photographs use the same type of lighting to get the best effects, and Mother Nature made it easy today. So what a beautiful place. Got all kinds of limestone layers here. It'd be a good place to hang out in the summertime. It's got a really big swimming hole here, and I'm sure it's very popular. So this is the Big Falls on Big Cedar Creek, and while I'm here, let's just take a moment. I've been seeing some evidence of beavers along this hike. We really got some evidence here. Got a tree right here that they've gnawed their way through. And they must be good lumberjacks, because these guys felled this tree here just in the right spot where it wouldn't get hung up in the other trees around here. They've chewed right through this about a 8, 10, 12 inch diameter tree here. I believe it could be a butternut tree, I'm not quite sure, but it's laying down. You can see all the wood chips that they make and how sharp their teeth are to eat through this wood. And the reason they fell these trees is primarily to get the nutrients from the inner bark. The living part of the tree has lots of vitamins and some carbohydrates for them to live on. And that's what they're after. They don't actually eat the wood, they eat the inner bark. And they also can use the branches for making their lodges. Usually beavers on streams like this don't make lodges because of high water they would wash away. So they tend to burrow into the sides of the stream to have their young and escape the elements and sleep. So they tend to be burrowed into the banks of the stream and not building dams in places like this. If you've ever been to wetlands, especially in the northern Great Lakes and northern New England, the lodges, which are big piles of sticks, are common in many ponds and along slower moving streams. And let's take a look at the view from the top of the Copper Ridge Trail. This is just above the big falls, and the trail goes off up about 400 or 500 feet in elevation to a partial overlook here. This would be tough in the summertime. Some of these trees would block the view, but I'm getting a fairly good view today, looking down into the gorge created by the Clinch River itself. The junction with the Big Cedar Creek and the Clinch River is just below me, and I'll be heading in that direction shortly. But let's take a look at this view here. We've got some rolling farmland, and then some steep limestone bluffs, and even some more waterfalls on the Clinch River itself in the background there. That little wave of white water you see there is a bedrock ledge. Probably not too big of a waterfall there, but more of a ledge drop. I think this stretch of river is rated Class 3 in places. So, but it is a very popular canoeing and kayaking route. And extremely clear water and all kinds of unusual invertebrates, mussels, and things like that living in this water. So, just a really unique, pristine part of the country. This is very undeveloped around here. This is the headwaters of the Tennessee River, the Clinch River, and the Powell River. Flow for several hundred miles before they become impounded and become part of the Tennessee Valley, which is mostly one lake after another, unfortunately. So this is what we got, this view here. Lots of buzzards soaring around on a perfect day like this. Not much wind, plenty of thermals. I'll just take a look at the map here real quick. Today's hike started at the P and followed the blue line, which is the Big Cedar Creek Trail. Downstream, around a few bends there was the smaller falls, and then the big falls, which I've done some videos of, and then we came around the bend here, and this red trail is well built with plenty of switchbacks, climbs 400 or 500 feet to this overlook, and that's called the Copper Ridge Trail. And no trouble ascending it, well built, plenty of switchbacks, no blowdowns, good hiking, and some nice views along the way up, and you can hear the waterfalls the whole way. So beautiful place to spend a half a day. You can do this whole park in a half a day. I'll be stopping a couple more times to look around, and we'll continue on. And I have reached the end of the Big Cedar Creek Trail here at the Pinnacle Natural Area in Russell County, Virginia. And more ledges and more small rapids and more incredible scenery this entire hike. And this will be my last video of the day. I'm going to go ahead and retrace my steps. And what I have done is 1.5 miles one way to this end point of this trail, plus a half-mile detour up Copper Ridge and a half-mile back down. So really it's going to be about a 4-mile total hike. Most of it is well built and easy to hike, with some well-engineered switchbacks and a lot of variety of forest and scenery, and you can always hear the falls and the riffles. Even up on the ridges you can hear them. So a very peaceful place and soothing to the eyes and to the ears. So here's our Big Cedar Creek tumbling its way down and joining with the Clinch River right down here. I can't get to the Clinch River. It's we've got a large rock bluff here making it impossible to get to without wading, but the Clinch River is just in the background there between here and the next hillside. So this is very peaceful place to spend the afternoon or morning. You wouldn't need the whole day to hike here, but there's plenty to do here for the whole day. including wading and looking for things in the creek if it's a warmer time of year. A great place for photography. And yes, I got another northern white cedar growing right here. I've seen all kinds of these northern white cedars on this hike. Thousands of them. So it's very common in this area, even though it's not common in this part of the country. And we'll put the wraps on this hike and continue on with our next adventure in the next 5 to 6 weeks.